Okay, wonderful. I think we've had an additional 4 to 5 people join. So I'm going to, without further ado, start the webinar. So first of all, again, just for those people who just joined, thank you and welcome to the Deep Vision webinar. What we're going to cover in today's webinar is really around the importance of e-commerce search and understanding why poor search functionality is a conversion killer. So everybody who has attended the WebEx, I think you'll all have a significant interest in certainly conversion on your website, but more understanding the customer experience, and that's what we'll be approaching today. So again, I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Steve Coates. I'm the Director of Expert Services at Solteq. I have 7+ years of global customer experience consultancy. What does that mean? Well, I support our customers in understanding what happens on their website. More importantly, we look at this from the user's perspective. So we look to identify struggles, and I'll use this term through this session, and what it basically means is any problem that happens within a website, we are able to score and look at that. I've had the absolute pleasure in dealing with enterprise businesses, medium-sized business and small businesses. The solutions that we do are not bespoke to any particular vertical. We've covered everything from retail, travel, B2C and B2B. I'm currently delivering across the whole Nordic region at the moment, specifically Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and we've also worked further afield. The format of today's webinar is as follows. So we've got a roughly 20-minute real deep dive into e-commerce search, the theories, the facts, the figures, and what that actually means to you. We then got about a 5 to 10-minute demonstration where I'll take you through the tool, how we can look at KPIs, how we can deep dive into data. And then finally, there'll be a 5 to 10-minute chat, Q&A. But again, as I mentioned to everyone who joined at the start, please put your questions in the chat and make me aware of anything, and I will answer those questions at the end. So without further ado, just a quick note of who Solteq is. Solteq, our company, is a Nordic IT service provider. We're a software house that digitalizes, that specializes in digital business solutions. Our mission is to simplify the digital world to make it a better tomorrow. We're based in 6 locations across the Nordics, but also within the United Kingdom.
Steve, I have to interrupt you. So we can't see the screen, the actual screen.
Oh. We should be able to share. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. That hadn't started on mine. Okay, thank you very much. So, yes, as we start, search is a critical function of nearly every web application that is out there. Search is actually a critical element of what customers do within the visit within your website. Now, we all know that, and we all know search is immediately compared to Google. It's something that is out there. It's an industry-wide phenomenon. Often search is actually very difficult to implement, and it is also an ongoing asset to tune. It requires time and it requires effort. That's both in technological implementation, but obviously time to start looking at and investigate. Now, a well-performing search engine actually has proven to boost average basket values and improve overall conversion. So whilst we know that there is effort, we are very, very clear on the understanding that a good and well-performing search engine actually improves conversion. Integrated incorrectly, however, a poor search engine has the capacity to really lead to significant customer frustration. Typically, that frustration is borne out in the fact that people abandon. What does abandon mean? Well, they bounce, they see failed search terms, they don't see a search term that's relevant, and they leave the site. You may have spent money getting those customers there, so that's a really inefficient and unusable and very, very bad experience to have. However, there's another side of this. Your digital platform is a critical revenue generator. We know this, and we want to increase our week on week, month on month, and year on year revenue through the sites. But not just that, they reflect your brand. So if a customer has a poor performance and has a poor journey and a poor experience, they are likely to then pass that information on. We all know social media and the method that customers use to voice their frustration. So not only do we want to make sure that our revenue and our conversion is useful and is improved and is maximized to the most, we also need to make sure that those customers go away happy. So what are the facts? There's a lot of blogs, there's a lot of white papers written on this, but what we were able to establish from 2019 was the average global e-commerce conversion was 2.8%. That's everything from marketing campaigns, organic search, paid search, etc. 30% plus of all online customer journeys interact with search. That is growing rapidly. Certainly back in 2017, it was around about 10 to 15%. So it's doubled in a short space of time. The reason for that is that customers may land on a particular page, but may want to then also look for other products. Now, why this webinar is so important and why we felt that we really wanted to talk about this is because search is so highly used. What we see when we see a customer that has at least one failed search or a negative experience within your search, their overall conversion on your site drops to around about 6.87%. So we know that there is a negative experience once we've actually got customers onto the site. Conversely, those customers who have at least one successful search in the customer journey convert on average, and this is aggregated data across the internet and also our customer base, is 15.59%. So what we can see immediately are that successful searches lead to an 8.7% higher conversion rate on average. That is not insignificant. We have the benefit of working with some fantastic customers across the Nordics, and one of our customer cases that are on our website, and links will be provided in the WebEx, is Atea. And Atea, this was just one of their screens that we looked at their eShop. And this quite clearly demonstrates the importance of search. So we can see that there's other navigation usage. We can see that some of the drop-down menus are used. But by far and most clicked on and interacted with on the page is the product, is the search for products. It shows significant interaction with that field. It also demonstrates this on many other of the URLs. So this is just one example. And it's great to see the use of visual representation of data, which the Deep Vision product supports, because it gives us evidence very quickly and very visually on users interacting with search. So great, we've got some facts and figures. We've been able to visualize that actually those facts and figures are real in the real world. But what does that actually mean to you? So in the start of this presentation, I mentioned how everybody compares search to Google. When a customer actually goes to look for a product, we found that 81% of customers search online before they make a purchase in a physical store. So search is very, very critical for not just the online experience, but a good experience can actually support customer footfall into physical stores. Conversely, as I've mentioned before, a negative experience could mean that that customer does not purchase online, but they may not also visit the physical store. So when we look at an omni-channel approach, this is a really critical factor that everyone needs to understand. A poor search may very well lead to a lost customer. And when we talk about site search issues, we look at if they actually have this problem, those customers who actually perform search, 30% of your most important visitors actually convert nearly 2 times more compared to other visitors. And that kind of bears itself out in the other percentage that I talked about previously around failed searches. So in direct contrast to a positive search, a failed or negative search reduces conversion rates. And what it can also do is any loyal and previously engaged customers can quickly turn into detractors and can't find what they want. So now we've had some figures, we've understood the experience that actually a customer has during their visit and how they use search. What actually impacts search? So for everyone on the call, this is really useful and I hope it resonates. But what we have is that customers always compare your site search to Google. We can't really do anything about that other than try to make improvements in key areas. We know that customers are not patient. They're not prepared to wait for a search engine to return a search after 20, 30 seconds, which sounds extreme, but does happen. And finally, competition is always one click away. So you really need to make sure that once you get those customers onto your site, that they are able to search effectively. What actually impacts search is quite complex, like I said at the start. There are business processes that actually lead to how you display search and how you display search results. One of the key things that customers often miss when we're implementing search is that we have poor data quality. That's things like PIM, CNET data. We need to make sure that data is in a good format. Failed search results is obviously a very negative thing. If you find nothing and can't find anything and there are no other options, then a customer is left with no other option to either search again on their own or abandon. We've got things like poor or overly complex product weighting. That is decided on as a technical level. Do you want to prioritize sales versus campaigns, etc.? We've got things like inefficient auto suggests for categories and products. Poor synonyms, again, is more around the configuration of your search engine. And then not just failed search results, but incorrect search results. And finally, one which is often missed is the speed of those search results, sometimes impacted by poor data quality and also other elements. So they're the key things that we see that actually impact search. So in order to start making progress here, we've understood how important search is. We know that it has a real benefit to conversion. How do you actually go forward and start making changes positively? Well, the simple fact of the matter is you have to measure success versus failures. And this is really where our Deep Vision product comes in and where we've been concentrating on supporting our customers, certainly for the last 4 to 5 years. It's really key that you understand the trends and variations from the norm. So if you have particular spikes in the data or you really have a problem which has gone unnoticed, you should be able to track that and then measure any success which follows. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through an example of how Deep Vision can actually do this for you. And I'm going to make sure that I actually articulate what's happening as we go through this. So what you can see on my screen at the moment is a dashboard that we have built to measure search KPIs. Now, as I said, these KPIs are absolutely key to track. The demo that we have in here is obviously there's an element of canned data, but the actual numbers are genuine. So this is very, very interesting for those who want to see an actual implementation of how we measure success. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you through and talk this through. So what everyone can see is this is a dashboard that is looking at tracking both the number of searches versus the number of failed searches. And what you can see is that we have a fairly interesting view of the data. So we can map this data and we can see that we see the total number of searches, we see the failed number of searches, we see the number of unique users which actually form this data. And as you would expect from any analytics, we can see when there's a particular spike in the data. We're able to see this information based on some really key areas of segmentation. So mobile, as you can see here, has a higher failure ratio than some other areas. We see those customers who have no user agents, such as bots, causing problems, but we can also see what type of user agent is the most important. Easily and quickly able to measure. We can obviously change simple things like date range, and this is all out-of-the-box functionality that we do, and this really starts to help our customers investigate the data. So when I mentioned trending and baselining, what we want to do is we want to understand what our customers are looking for. What's successful? Is it a campaign? How many searches are users doing? What are the top searches that we need to focus upon? So not only do we need to understand what the good searches are, we also need to understand those search terms that fail. What you can see here is we see a significant number of searches that are performed. Again, very easy to segment and understand. So how do you get value from this data? Well, the key thing is understanding what is good versus what is bad. And again, if we have a look at the information that's happening here, we can see very clearly, and this is things that people don't normally understand. Customers will search with words. Customers will search with numbers. Customers who are familiar with your site will search in particular ways. But what we can see immediately is when if a customer has a problem, we can understand the top 10 search terms that fail. And we can also go down to every single search term that fails on the website. Why is that useful? That's really interesting, because if you have someone who is tuning your search engine, they can go down, have a look at the search terms, fix synonyms, look at performance-based issues, but also prioritize that. You really want to spend your time and effort fixing things that are worthwhile fixing, and Deep Vision is doing just this. You can see from this, we are going to be able to go down and deep dive into the data. But just to prove kind of our theory behind this webinar, what we can see here is across the same date range that we were looking at, we can see that successful search conversions are at 21.55%. So within the date range we've looked at, we've seen that 833 people with no failed searches in their journey have converted. Conversely, we can see immediately that conversion rate is significantly lower for people who have had failed searches in their journey. Again, what is interesting is when you start to look at things like marketing. Did these customers come from a marketing campaign? And yes, they did. Conversion rates are different from different segments, i.e. again, are they different in your traffic type? Yes, they are. What is the best and poorest performing traffic type? And again, if you have a customer base which is very, very key to search using their mobiles, i.e. you have a lot of customers who are traveling and looking at your products, then it's very, very interesting and easy to be able to dive down into that data, look at what you need to fix first and foremost, spend that time efficiently, and make sure that you make the best value changes possible. Now, what we have here also in this tool set is not only do we have the capability of data mining, looking at conversion rates, we can also go down and have a look at the data that is created by the customer. Now, obviously, I'm not going to demonstrate a genuine customer case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a mock-up of this actually happening. But from all of our customers who use this solution, we're able to very quickly and easily drill down on any of these metrics and provide a slightly different view of the data. This helps both commercial teams, it helps technical teams to really understand what the impact of this data is. So really taking the data from a high level executive view down into an ability to fix issues. So if we look at this, we can see that we have a failed search here of Deep Vision. As you can see, this is a level of CAN data from this perspective. And what we do is we go down into the individual customers' sessions. And we can see immediately that we have a failed search. And one very, very vital thing to mention at this point, Deep Vision is a tool which is highly GDPR compliant. We have the ability to fully mask all data that is PII related. We have the ability to make sure that customers and specific groups are able to look at Deep Vision from perspectives of fraud, etc. But concentrating on the search area of this webinar, what we can see immediately is the failed search that is identified by the customer. We can see if that customer actually enters any other information. We can see if the customer goes on and tries to perform yet another search. And what this does is it gives us evidence. It means that the decisions that we make are based on real data. That allows us to be able to make arguments to prioritize problems and to prioritize issues over other things that may be within your development backlog. If we play and we continue, I just had a slight delay on my side. You can then go down and look at individual customer URLs. You can see their customer journey. And for those customers who don't convert, you can start to then understand and map the value of what those customers look like. Much like I showed you in the Atea case earlier, we can also go down and quantify people who are clicking on images. So we can see that 475 individual clicks have been made against the search. We can see and quickly quantify what's going on. Sometimes issues for search aren't always to do with poor search terms. There are some times when the content that is returned may be too small for customers. Within the tool that we have, we're able to have a look at UI elements. This looks technical, but again, the same view can be used by technical teams to start to understand issues, as well as commercial teams and UI development teams that want to, or marketing teams, for example, that want to really just go down and understand a negative search impact. So that's how the tool works in essence. And also, it's how we go down and actually absolutely equivocally prove that something has happened. Evidence is always a good thing to have. Okay, so that was how the tool worked. Now, how can we actually go and give you some value from our common findings? I think a lot of the webinars that we see are very much aimed at kind of just highlighting functionality. What I really want to be able to give to you during this presentation is some learnings that we've found from optimization of search. So 3 real key tips that we have used across our customer base, which really supports increasing conversion, increasing basket values, but also a significant reduction in customer struggle. So the top issue that we found is as exactly as I've just mentioned to you, identifying key search terms that work and key search terms that fail. Having a simple list that you can work on to optimize your search engine to resolve simple issues related to spelling mistakes, poor synonyms, or things like special characters in search. That's a really simple way of spending a small amount of effort to get a significant amount of gain. But again, it's very, very, very critical that we look at this from a top searched term, because it may have seasonal differences, it may have product type differences and categories. So it's really key to get a great understanding of what you should actually fix first. And also, once you fix those, that you can measure that you've had success from that. Secondly, and this is not an issue that is the simplest of fixes, but it has actually given us one of the biggest results, improvement in results, is looking at your product data for quality and accuracy. Over time, product data can get quite complex. You can add many different types of weightings to the product data. You can have different or differing levels of product complexity. That really is an area to focus on, because a search engine which is indexed correctly and has the correct format of data in all instances will always return searches significantly quicker. That is always a benefit. In instances where search results can't be returned, and we had the privilege of working with a fantastic retailer in Sweden, where we initially saw that actually when there was a failed search, nothing was returned, and one of the quick fixes that was put in place was to just put any product when a failed search happened. Actually worked against the customer. So we proved that actually not having a result or putting results which were not useful was actually even more detrimental. Ensure with your team that if you have failed searches, that you are able to demonstrate and receive and return something that the customer would find useful. A did you mean category. Should you have said this? Really help those customers to actually get a product that may return, or with really concise and clear messaging. Those three methods are exceptionally useful in making search for users easy. And that is what customers want. They want to find products and they want to go on and purchase through yourselves. What we've covered so far in the presentation is all around facts and figures. It's all around how you understand and measure. But again, this is all based on individual sites data mining. What we really concentrate on from our perspective in Solteq is, again, making the digital world easier. And the way in which we do this is we have a very simple continuous digital improvement strategy. You identify, quantify, and monetize your issues. You look at BI metrics and you map impact versus your KPIs. Your KPIs may be different to others, so it's really key to make sure that you understand trends, to make sure that you are meeting your KPIs and those KPIs are relevant. The reporting that we've seen from the Deep Vision BI gives you prioritization and focus. It should make your job easier. You should not be having to spend a lot of time to identify these key issues. Then you make changes based on data and evidence. That's why our solution not only gives you facts and figures, it gives you the evidence. It gives you the ability to drill down into specific cases. Once you've made those changes, it's absolutely crucial that you can determine whether or not that was successful, and also to actually make sure that you're getting a good return on investment, not just from one product, but from the effort that you're putting in across the teams. Finally, what is Deep Vision? I've talked about this. We've demonstrated a very small subset of the templates, certainly with a view to our search metrics. Deep Vision is an advanced analytics tool. What does that actually mean? Well, it's a cloud-delivered SaaS application. It gives you rapid deployment with initial results in 1 week. If you think about typical website tagging, 1 week is a significant increase in speed to delivery and value. We provide both technical and commercial benefits because, as you've seen from the demonstration, we can go down into individual sessions. That makes finding fault fix issues significantly faster for both technical teams and commercial teams. And we typically see a return on investment on a 2-year contract within around 6 months. As part of this webinar, this is our very first webinar, so I'd like to thank everybody for joining. We have a limited one-time offer. For those who are interested, please do put your comments in the box, but we're really interested to offer a free proof of concept. It's really critical that we put our money where our mouth is and we're able to actually identify, deploy, and really start to show business value for you and your team. The limited offer includes 1 to 2 weeks of free data capture and analysis on one domain. We give you 1 to 3 top findings, which would be access to all of your data in an executive report format. And at the end of this webinar, we'll make sure that you have Johnny's contact details so you can get in touch with him for more information. So we're at the end. I think I've taken everyone's time. I think we're just within the time of the WebEx setup. I'm going to open the floor to questions. So what I'll do is I will unmute everybody. Hopefully that goes okay. And if we can do questions, again, if you don't get an opportunity to ask your question, please do put it into chat. And just before I move on, in the next of this series of our Deep Vision webinars, we're going to be looking at determining reasons why visitors abandon your marketing conversion funnels, where the gaps are, struggle, and the real reason why paid visitors quit. So I hope that grabs everyone's attention.